And as I said to you back then, and I believe even more today, and I've seen more copycats of it, the Elon package is the most shareholder-aligned CEO compensation package I've ever seen.
Hey, this is Warren Redlick. That's from the BG Pod. I'm going to go in depth in what the BG Pod said about Elon Musk and Delaware and Tesla. And I want to contrast what you hear from Bill Gurley and Brad Gerstner versus the voice that seems to be driving the judge. There's a professor from Delaware who seems to be the one that is the guiding light for the judge in evaluating this. Is a professor named Charles Elson, who's a Delaware professor of corporate law. And his views are really driving a dramatic difference in what you're going to hear from Bill Gurley and how this guy and this judge and what the plaintiff's lawyer is arguing for, how companies should be governed and how executives should be compensated. So here's who Professor Elson is. Professor Charles Elson, retired chair in corporate governance, founding director of the Weinberg Center for Corporate Governance at University of Delaware, published extensively on the subject of executive compensation, and writes to provide the court with broader context about the development and goals of equity-linked executive compensation. Elon's package is a equity-linked executive compensation package. It's a performance-based compensation package. The professor gets a bunch of things wrong, and he reveals a bunch of things about himself. And he reveals, I think, a lot about what's really going on in Delaware, what's guiding this judge, and what's wrong. You start with his introduction. Elon Musk is not unique. Really? You know, I'm an investor in Tesla. I've been following markets for 30 plus years. I've been investing for 30 plus years. He mentions Zuckerberg, Larry Brin, Sergey Page. I've invested. I don't think I ever bought stock in Microsoft. Maybe I did, but I own stock in Amazon. I owned a lot of stock in Amazon. He mentions Bezos. He mentions Zuckerberg. I own stock in Facebook. I bought Facebook after the dip after the IPO. I own stock in Google, Larry Brin and Sergey Page. Not one was an ordinary executive or typical CEO. That's true. They're all special. That doesn't mean that Elon is not unique. He says Musk is an archetype that we have seen before and will see again. A confident, charismatic founder with world-class sales ability and a reality distortion field, that's Steve Jobs' characteristic, that inspires outsized enthusiasm in customers and employees alike. He's very special, but he's not one of a kind. I'm sorry, that's just fucking bullshit. That's just absolute bullshit. None of these guys landed an orbital rocket booster. Let me be very clear about how you can tell that Elon Musk is different from these guys. What were their other companies? What else did they do? Right? Bill Gates, Microsoft, Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Jeff Bezos is really a great contrast with Elon when you look at Blue Origin and SpaceX. Zuckerberg, no other companies. Larry Brin, Sergey Page, Google, that's it, no other companies. They have not started up multiple companies, they started up one. Elon started up Zip2, then he started up what effectively became PayPal, X.com became PayPal, then he started up Tesla and SpaceX, he started Boring Company, he started Neuralink, he started XAI, he's acquired Twitter and made it into X. He's done a lot of different companies. And the SpaceX one is really important because if you're going to say he's like Jeff Bezos, okay, well, Jeff Bezos started Blue Origin about the same time that Elon started SpaceX. And Jeff Bezos had more money than Elon when he started Blue Origin, pretty much all the way until after SpaceX was successful, and Blue Origin still isn't. But, you know, when SpaceX really started successfully launching rockets and landing boosters, Bezos had more money than Elon the whole way, right? Because Elon first landed an orbital rocket booster. SpaceX first landed an orbital rocket booster in 2015, long before Tesla stock had run up. And Amazon stock shot up. So Jeff Bezos was wealthier than Elon. Has Blue Origin landed an orbital rocket booster? No. It's 8.5 years later, hasn't landed an orbital rocket booster. Have they gotten a payload into orbit? No. No. Elon is unique. Elon stands head and shoulders above Jeff Bezos in his ability to start up a company and lead a company and innovate in a technology sense and do outsized, crazy, impressive things. I'm not saying Bezos sucks. I like Jeff Bezos. I like Zuckerberg. I like Brin. I like Page. I don't particularly like Bill Gates, but I wouldn't say I hate him either. Not like a lot of other people. I love Jobs, right? And Jobs did multiple companies, by the way. Jobs did Pixar. I think he did one other, but not on Elon's scale. Elon Musk is unique. For this professor to start up, this is like when the judge wrote her decision. She said, how much should the wealthiest man in the world be paid? He wasn't the wealthiest man in the world in 2018 when the compensation package was announced and voted on by shareholders, right? Saying Elon Musk is not unique is BS. And then, of course, he slips in down here. This professor, this is what I would call gratuitous. Musk did not actually found Tesla, but he was a very early investor and its fourth CEO. Why is this necessary? It is established that Elon is effectively, whether you can quibble about whether he's really the founder or not, he is effectively the founder of Tesla. If Elon Musk had not taken over Tesla, Tesla wouldn't exist. You got a Laura Kolodny article. Laura Kolodny is Tesla Q. She is an Elon hater. Talking about Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, the guys who sort of started up the name Tesla, but never accomplished anything, versus Elon, who accomplished everything. So you got somebody who falsely says Elon is, first of all, we're all unique in some sense, right? But Elon really stands out as unique. And anybody who pays attention understands this. To say he's not unique is ridiculous. So yeah, you've got sort of the basics of how this guy starts out his analysis of the compensation package. There's a deeper underlying rift between his view of how compensation package should be done and Bill Gurley's view and my view and the shareholders of Tesla's view.
I would be thrilled if all of my hired CEOs had a very similar package.
Right.
I'd be thrilled.
Yeah.
I think most of them wouldn't take it.
Yes.
Because it requires outsized performance. I think it's excellent.
He talks about this here. Equity-linked executive compensation is designed to align the interests of managers and owners. Yes. And he talks about that. He gives a little bit of history. It's designed to motivate. He said the defendants ignored the purpose of equity-linked compensation in crafting Elon Musk's award. He claims he remains a strong proponent of equity-linked compensation. Equity compensation is a means to an end. It is a tool that should be used only to the extent necessary to accomplish the underlying goal, aligning management's interests with stockholders. Defendants ignored this critical point in improving Musk's award. Now, here's the critical detail here. Stockholders approved Musk's award twice now. So when he talks about defendants, he's leaving us out because we're actually the plaintiffs, right? We're supposedly the plaintiffs. This law firm is supposedly representing our interests. We approved this award. I voted. I knew what I was doing when I voted for this award. I knew this was outsized compensation for outsized performance. I knew what I was doing. My brother voted at the time. He knew what he was doing. Jason DeBolt knew what he was doing. Amy Steffen knew what she was doing. Lots of people who invested in Tesla along the way, the vast majority of us voted yes, and we knew what we were doing. This guy doesn't think we should decide how our CEO should be compensated. Not just for Tesla, for other companies as well. He goes here, for Musk's award to be justified, defendants must show that the marginal benefit to Musk would meaningfully affect his motivations. They make no serious effort to do so. What's meaningful? What's marginal? What does he mean by that? There's this point where defendants say that Musk wants to get to Mars, and achieving this objective requires financing beyond what can be provided by a single private company. We know, and by the way, this is one of the reasons why I want Elon to have outsized compensation. Because if Elon succeeds, I want Elon to start up Neuralink. I'm glad Elon started. I want him to be able to build up Neuralink. I want him to be able to build up XAI. I want him to be able to get us to Mars. I have said in the past, the way we get to Mars, the way we get a 1 million person colony on Mars, governments aren't going to pay for it. Elon will. Achieving market capitalization hurdles will generate monetary payouts that could conceivably help Mr. Musk finance his space missions. But as a matter of simple arithmetic, the vast majority of the additional wealth that Musk obtained from increases in Tesla's market cap resulted from his existing holdings, not the incremental equity he obtained through the award. Now, wait a minute. Elon at the time owned about 20%, and I believe this award added about 11%. Now, he has to sell half of it, whatever, but this is a fairly substantial increase in Elon's ownership of Tesla. It's a substantially, the judge keeps going on about how it's $55 billion. Elon's net worth is somewhere around $200 billion, so $55 billion is a lot. That's not marginal. Marginal would be like you added 1%, you added 2%. This is adding like 25%. It's adding something like 33% to his ownership of Tesla. Maybe 25%. This is not marginal. And it falls short of a rigorous showing that the award had any significant effect on Musk's odds of making it to Mars. We don't need to make a rigorous showing. I don't understand this. Like, shareholders made a decision. And he goes here. This is one of those things where he takes another shot. This is an evidence of bias of this guy. The Musk to Mars rationale is further undermined by Musk's recent decision to incinerate a significant portion of his net worth by buying an already unprofitable social media company and destroying its relationship with advertisers. He wrote this in 2022. Well, X is looking pretty good right now. X is doing well. Everybody said Twitter's going to fail. Twitter hasn't failed. Advertisers are coming back. He's making great progress. Why bring this up? Why go here? Why go here? This is because this is a voice who hates Elon. He's not unique. He's not special. This Mars thing is silly, blah, blah, blah. Like, no. I invested in Tesla because I believed in Elon. One of the biggest driving factors was landing that first orbital rocket booster. That was one of the biggest things that sold me. Okay, if a guy can do that, what can he do with a car company? What can he do with Tesla? And I started diving in further and I started researching. I know more about Tesla than Charles Elson. Jason DeBolt knows more about Tesla than Charles Elson. Amy Steffen knows more. Dave Lee knows more. Rob Maurer knows more. Stephen Mark Ryan knows more. We understand Tesla better than this asshat. Right? The idea that this judge and this law professor and this plaintiff's lawyer get to decide how our CEO is compensated, that they somehow know better than us, is absurd. And this is a critical point here. Elson says, when this court speaks, transactions planners listen. Yeah, they do. Whatever the result, the court's resolution of this case will reverberate throughout boardrooms across the country. Yeah. Yes, they will.
That relates more to the Delaware situation. So it's my belief that many of the attorneys and lawyers that live in the Delaware ecosystem were very eager for Tesla to appeal this thing and push it to the Delaware Supreme Court. Has been wildly discussed here and other places. The reason that people chose Delaware is 100 years. I went back and looked up the date. Over 100 years of practice of being business friendly. And they're choosing this place because of its history of precedent and its history of how they adjudicate different things. Right. And people felt that it was in the company's best interest. Here today, with the Tesla situation, we have a company whose stock performed incredibly well and was brought to heel by a lawyer and a law firm with a contingent, derivative lawsuit. Their one customer had 9 shares of stock.
9 shares.
That went up.
Yes.
So if you consider the fact that, I could be a public company in Delaware, my stock could go up.
Yes.
I can be, and then they asked for $5 billion in compensation to the lawyer.
They're still asking for it.
And they had one customer with 9 shares. Like, how do you ask for $5 billion? First of all, I think that these people that live in Delaware are very fearful that there won't actually be an appeal, because then this thing just stands out there.
Yes.
And I think it's horrible for the entire Delaware ecosystem. If I were the governor of Delaware, I would be scared shitless. Scared shitless about what might happen if this judge hands out any penalty anywhere close.
Yes.
That has this over 100 million even.
Yes.
I think companies need to consider leaving Delaware as fast as possible.
Well, it's such a bad, case law, right, in the state of Delaware. I mean, your point.
It would
States
lead to vigilante lawyers chasing any company with high performance or a big market cap and just trying to get them on a gotcha and see if they can get a judge to give them this.
The court can either slow the problematic ratchet effect of Musk's award on the broader market for executive compensation or accelerate it. The court should take the former course. The court should find the terms of Musk's award were unfair. I think the terms of the award were fair. The Tesla shareholders think the terms of the award were fair. The reverberation throughout boardrooms across the country, which Bill Gurley talks about, is who the hell wants to incorporate in Delaware if Delaware is going to treat companies like this, if Delaware is going to treat stockholders like this, if Delaware is going to treat CEOs like this, if Delaware is going to disregard company decision making, shareholder input on company decision making. If companies are going to, if this is the way Delaware is going to treat companies, then yeah, it's going to reverberate throughout boardrooms across the country, and they're going to leave Delaware. And Delaware's fucked. I don't have a nicer way of saying it. Delaware's fucked. The Delaware lawyers are fucked. Bill Gurley's talking about this. The Hill is talking about this. This is devastating to the Delaware economy.
What makes Delaware so different is 100 years of precedent of case law,
No doubt,
which is very supportive of a lot of issues which are important to companies. That predictability led companies to incorporate there. Now we've thrown predictability out the window, right? And now we're talking about, despite 2 shareholder votes that both voted in favor of giving Elon this package, both before and contemporaneous, and now, that they're going to go back.
Bill Gurley and Brad Gerstner tend to be calm, straightforward, level-headed, and Bill's been pretty calm and just sort of meticulous in laying things out. And you're about to see Brad Gerstner, who I think is normally a pretty calm guy. He lights up like a firecracker with his rant that's about you. This is beautiful. Listen to this.
If they award, I'm not $100 million, Bill. If they award $1, right, I think you're going to see companies in the state of Delaware that leave the state of Delaware. And by the way, I think we should be encouraging them to leave the state of Delaware if that's the case, because I would like to see a lot more jurisdictions develop a lot more friendly corporate codes, friendly precedent, for these companies. The reality is, if we can't support a performance-based compensation package for a company, then what are we doing? Look at the garbage packages that people get paid tens of millions of dollars on. Stock goes down. Companies are terrible. ISS is cheering that that's a good compensation package, and it's no problem in the state of Delaware.
Not to pick on one person, but people have highlighted that the CEO of GM has made tens and tens of millions of dollars. Stock hasn't gone anywhere. That's who, if they want to chase somebody, they should be chasing that situation.
Shots fired. Mary led. Of course, Mary led. Mary led by getting massive compensation for not performing at all. And Charles Elson has no problem with Mary Barra getting paid tons of money from General Motors for delivering crap performance. But Elon delivers spectacular performance, and Charles Elson thinks he shouldn't get paid.
And it starts here in Detroit. In the auto industry, Detroit's leading the world in electric vehicles. Mary, I can remember talking to you way back in January about the need for America to lead in electric vehicles. You changed the whole story, Mary, wherever you are. There you are. You did, Mary. You electrified the entire automobile industry. I'm serious. You led, and it matters.
But I couldn't agree with you more. I think this is a very serious topic. I think that even I think like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, they missed this point. And as you said, if it's not about shareholder alignment, what's the point?
Bill's going to go a little deeper here. It's not just about Delaware. It's also about, are people going to go public at all? Are we going to see a change and a switch to stop doing IPOs? Because you don't want to subject yourself to all these risks. And if you stay private, you avoid it. So it may reduce the number of IPOs, and that has a whole different effect all over the economy.
Right. And then the last thing I would say is, we started by talking about the dearth of IPOs and why aren't companies going public. If this is the type of thing you expose yourself to by being public, then I understand why there are less public companies. And I actually think, in addition to the fact that everyone in Delaware should be afraid of this, I think the SEC should be afraid of it. Like, you shouldn't want this type of activity, this type of derivative suit to come to the table. Because with 9 shareholders and an ask for $4 billion, it's clearly a shakedown.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't want that in your public market ecosystem.
So when you have level-headed Bill Gurley and level-headed Brad Gerstner describing this, these guys are in the VC community. These guys are advising startup founders. As I see it, startup founders are going to say, we certainly don't want to go to Delaware. This is devastating to Delaware. You've heard Bill talk about this. Like the lawyers in Delaware are like, holy crap, you got to do something about this. There's another chancellor from Delaware. I just saw this posted the other day or today about this other chancellor criticizing Chancellor McCormick and another one of the judges for being activists and making up law and creating problems and destroying predictability. This is a massive problem for Delaware. And then you have this shadow effect of maybe less companies are going to go public, and that hurts us as investors, because if you're not a big enough investor, you can't really invest in privately held companies. You need to be a qualified investor, accredited investor, whatever. And even if you are qualified and accredited, the cost of getting into those investments is higher. It's better to have more public companies for us as investors to be able to have the opportunity to buy into this stuff. And otherwise, it reserves it for rich guys like Bill and Brad and Chamath and Sachs and all these the extra wealthy people who are in the VC community. They end up getting access to the best companies, and we get left holding whatever's public if we can. So this is just a large problem for society, and the way the judge is approaching this, and using this idiot Charles Elson. He's not an idiot, but he's a law professor for years, or corporate governance professor for years. But like, hey, you're missing it, and it's not his place. It's not the judge's place to decide how we compensate our CEO. They're going beyond their role. The shareholders are supposed to have primacy under Delaware law. And the shareholders are going to have primacy, or do have primacy, in Texas. We are seeing Texas adopt laws that are going to make Teslas more favorable to business. Nevada's doing that. Some of the states have figured it out. And this is a huge opportunity for these states to say, hey, come incorporate here, get out of Delaware. And I think a lot of companies are going to start saying that. And I think you have these guys, these are VCs. Now you're a founder. You go to Bill Gurley, you go to Brad Gerstner, say, hey, I've got a startup. I'm getting ready to incorporate. Well, don't incorporate in Delaware. Don't do it in Delaware. Go to another state. And if you're going to see that from Y Combinator, you're going to see that from VCs in general, you're going to see that from accelerators, you're going to see that from incubators. The smart lawyers are going to start advising people that way. The lawyers who still advise people to go to Delaware are probably going to lose clients. This is really devastating in a lot of ways for Delaware, and it may potentially have other ramifications. So check out the Tesla and Air t-shirt at elonbits.com. Stock is doing well. The company's doing well. I'm really excited about Tesla. I hope you're all really excited about Tesla. This is a bump in the road. The fact that we got the shareholders vote positive for Elon, I think, is a huge signal. Tesla will work it out. If it has to wait until they move to Delaware and they do a third shareholder vote in order to get it through, they will. Right? But, the end result is, maybe we get stuck paying this idiot lawyer a pile of money for not representing our interests. That's a small cost. Tesla will work it out. The real harm here is to Delaware. And the real harm here is, there's some harm to us, there's some harm to Tesla, but that's, I think, relatively small. On a societal scale, it's like, this is harmful to Delaware, and it's harmful to the market of having public companies and publicly traded companies. And, it changes how startups function if they don't think they can go public as easily. It may be harder to get funding because some investors want to get the company to go public later. It's a whole bunch of curveballs that this throws in everything, and it hampers American technology development. And it hampers our chance to. Fortunately, we're still ahead of most other countries, but having these class action lawsuits, these derivative lawsuits, is something that's a stain on the American legal system and the American business system. And I hope we get that worked out. Thank you so much for watching. T-shirts at elonbits.com. Take care, everybody.